Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Terry McGriff Show. I'm your host, Terry McGriff, along with my illustrious co-host, Andre L. Sullivan, over there in the beautiful iHeart Studios. Man, what another lovely week we're going. We're getting toward the end of the month of February, Black History Month, as they say. And we got just all kind of stuff that's going on. We're going to talk about some pretty interesting topics for our show this week. We're going to start out talking about this little happening with Cam Newton and this young player at a camp, 7-on-7 little tournament they had. We're going to also delve into about the free agents and what do we think about them taking discounts. Also, really want to talk about Mr. Deshaun Watson, and can he actually force a trade? Can he force Houston's hand? It's been done before by other players, but can he do it with Houston? And last but not least, we haven't talked about much NBA ball yet this season, but we're going to talk a little NBA with about how the season the little shortened season has affected those guys. But first, I want to talk about a little bit of news that broke. Prayers and to Tiger Woods. He had an accident where they seemed they had to use the jaws of death to get him out of his car in Los Angeles. So we're praying for him. Said he had some injuries to his legs. Hopefully, he'll make a full recovery. I know he had some back injuries that he was dealing with right now because they weren't even sure if he was going to play in the Masters. So, we just want to, send out our thoughts and prayers for him and his family. Hope everything works out for him okay. So, but matter of fact, I just got that off across my computer that about him coming out there being injured. Let's talk about this Cam Newton situation. These camps and these 7-on-7s happen all over the country, and various players in different stages of their career do these type of things to try to, be involved in their community and give some positive back to the communities. And so he got filmed on somebody's camera, going back a little bit with this kid saying, he was rich when the kid said he's a free agent. And then he actually asked to speak to the young man's parents, his father, to be exact. Now, that could have been, I've heard different people's take on it. Some people turned that for a negative, saying that he was trying to mock that whether the young man had a father or not, which I don't see it because the way he asked the question, in my opinion, he was like he was trying to speak with the young man's father, which, first of all, it probably should have been the first thing out of his mouth. Hey, let me talk to your father instead of doing that. Or he could have just walked away. But it was almost like Cam was in a no-win situation with this, So, how does one of these professional athletes or anybody profile out there in the world handle this type of situation without it being the bad guy? My response to this is I think he handled it pretty well. Once again, it was really a no-win situation for him going back and forth with this kid. Secondly, if you got to axe the grind with Cam Newton, you're going to find the reason to axe the grind no matter what he did on this. And I like to hear what you got to say on this.
Let me first say, this generation right now of student athletes is quite different from any prior, mine, yours, or anything before. And then let me at the offset of this, no fault is of Cam's. Why? That's a grown man. And when you step into grown man territory, you get dealt with as a grown man should. Now, with that being said, Cam didn't do nothing wrong. I know you mentioned how he asked to speak with his father. That's because and I do this a lot of times. I don't argue with kids. I can't do it. I won't do it. I can't do it. I will joke with you to a certain extent, but I'll never argue with you. So I'm gonna go ask for his father because I can argue with him, and if things get out of hand, I can also knock him out. But I can't do that. I can't do that to you. It is cool. You a child, and I'm gonna treat you as such for now. And the kid got out of pocket. I'm just being honest. And to be honest with you, the fact that Cam Newton, out of all people, kept his cool is a testament to how far he has grown. Because if this was Cam 6 years ago, yeah, I can't promise you that kid will have a face today. But that's beside the point. The point that I'm making is, and let me go ahead and say, since then, the young man has come out with an apology that he issued publicly to the world via Twitter, and it's made its way around. But here's the thing: whether it was at a camp, whether it was at a gym, whether it was at a game, whether it was at a championship, whatever have you, you're a child.
Yes.
And you're addressing an adult. Let's excuse the fact that he's Cam Newton. Let's excuse the fact that he's been to a Super Bowl. Let's excuse the fact that he's won MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. He's where you are trying to get. Because you're at the camp where he's assisting. But let's excuse all of that. You're still a child addressing an adult. Even Cam, he jokes with you to a certain extent, but you stay in the child's place.
Yeah, and I find it ironic the piece of film that you got on that was that him saying he's rich. They didn't go into releasing how this whole thing started, and I think it started out just kind of like a friendly banter, and then it seemed to me the kid was losing his composure, and Cam did his best to kind of keep his composure. And today's, unfortunately, in today's society, we got a lot of kids raising kids, so. And then you got a lot of kids don't understand when you're in presence of greatness, and regardless of what his status of how he played now, Cam's history of how he played is greatness. He is one of what's this term I heard of 9 people to be an NFL MVP and a Heisman Trophy winner.
Right.
The man is going to be making money off of football long after his days of playing it are done. And if you're out there trying to get where he's already been, I would have been asking him questions instead of trying to mock him. He was like, son, you should be lucky to be a free agent in the NFL. That means, first of all, if he's a free agent, he's played out in contract in the NFL. He wasn't just a 1 year and done, one cup of coffee NFL player. He was a Super Bowl participant, NFL MVP.
Not to mention the young man in question is a QB.
Lord have mercy.
Seriously, and what was Cam doing at the time? Looking at the QB's throw. And by the way, he was up in line to throw because it was a 7-on-7. Yeah, your team was getting ready to play next. Listen, we are at any point in our life of some of the decisions and choices that we've made. And will this come up in his athletic career eventually? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
There's this thing called the Wonderlic test that you take if you just so happen to make it to the NFL, where coaches will sit you in a room with no cameras, no microphones, and ask you whatever the hell they want. Yeah, just know it's coming.
And not to mention how many scholarship opportunities did he lose? Also, how many sponsorship opportunities Cam Newton might have did for anybody out there or him? He might have lost somebody or for his own team a sponsorship offer. He definitely lost a mentorship opportunity. When you're speaking face to face with the man, you could have asked him anything you wanted to know about the quarterback position, about football, and gained some knowledge that you didn't have before you got there. And you lost the fact of you're trying to basically impress some bunch of kids who have no more ability or maybe than you do, or have a status higher than you do at that time, and you're trying to impress them instead of trying to impress the man that could have helped you, and that's unfortunately that probably is something to do with the society and the way he lived and the way hopefully it's not, but maybe the way he's being raised. That was more indicative of how the upbringing, and I hope it was. I hope he was going to get contrary to the upbringing that he should have been done, but it didn't look like it at that time. and it's just another black eye on what he did and brought for him on himself. It didn't make Cam to me look like any really bad at all. So, once again, you got these. Well, I would say to all these young athletes out here, when they come across people who've been where you're trying to go, instead of opening your mouth, which you only have one of, keep your ears open, which you have two of. And we'll move on to the next subject. Well, let's talk about NFL free agency. It's about to get down right now. I mean, there's a few guys who were released today that are on the market already. Obviously, you knew about J.J. Watt. Then Alshon Jeffrey's just been released with the Eagles, and Deshaun Jackson's been released. Some productive players over their career, getting toward the end of it. And I'm pretty sure if they can find a team, they probably want to go to a contender and have another shot at the ring. I know Alshon has one, and he probably would like to get another one. Deshaun, I think, has played for one, but I don't think he's won one. I'm not quite sure about Deshaun because I don't know if he was on that Eagles team in 2017. I don't think he was. And J.J. Watt definitely hasn't played for a ring yet, even though he's probably going down as a first ballot Hall of Famer the way he's going right now. And there's a lot of other great free agents that are hitting the market right now that we've been talking about earlier before the show. You got people like Juju out there right now, who's on the market. Allen Robinson, some good safeties. Marcus May, Desmond King. There's some few guys out there. Leonard Williams. Would these guys take a little bit of a discount to ensure that they can play on a Super Bowl contending team? Not just a playoff, but a Super Bowl contending team. You looked at what the Bucks did last year. Even though those guys were mainly on their roster, they brought in Gronk, and they brought in the GOAT, and they brought in AB, Antonio Brown, to help them get them over the hump, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Will these guys have that mindset across the league now? Like, you know what? I can take $1 million less if it's going to make sure I get on this Super Bowl team to get a chance. Like, I mean, me personally, I would find it very, very scary to see J.J. Watt on Kansas City's defense right now. So, and it can retain the talent that they got, especially if you brought in another defensive player, like another linebacker or defensive back. They would, they're already pretty much going to be a shoe-in to win the AFC anyway, unless there's somebody comes out of the woodwork we hadn't expecting. But, I've seen this done before. I remember back in the 90s when the 49ers kind of loaded up defensively and even brought in Deion Sanders to win that 94 championship.
I'm going to go ahead and just say no. And here's why. Yes, being on a Super Bowl contending team is all the more reasons to possibly take a few less dollars in the overall contract. Here's the issue with that. Being on a Super Bowl contending team is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I get it. There's some things that we can kind of just go ahead and say, Kansas City is going to be in the playoffs next year. Tampa is going to be in the playoffs next year. Other teams are going to always be in the mix. But a Super Bowl contending team is a team that without a shot of a doubt will be in the Super Bowl. At the beginning of last season, the powers that be and the people, including myself, with the microphone in front of them were saying that we're not sure about this Tampa Bay experiment. And then there was also those who said, Kansas City has it done, but they're kind of suspect in the secondary. And then there are some who, said, couple years ago, Philadelphia can repeat again. Now that they got Carson Wentz at a full strength. We also, tipped our hat to the Colts last year for signing a QB who had been in the league for an extended period of time. By the way, Derrick Henry is supposed to be Super Bowl champion right now because he was going to carry his team all the way. And Ben Roethlisberger is going to throw for 5,000 yards, blah, 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 on and on. And I say all of that not to throw jabs at certain players, but there is no for sure thing as winning the Super Bowl. In the words of Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. And I say all that to say this: get your money now, because football is a dangerous sport.
Mm.
You play literally with your life on the line, and your limbs are at liberty to detach themselves at any point. So, you have players like J.J. Watt, Von Miller, who are free agents right now. Neither of those young men have played a full season in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
Get your money.
Yeah.
Get your money and get it now. You have free agents like Shaq Barrett, who's coming off of a Super Bowl championship team. If Tampa Bay doesn't want to pay me, okay, guess what? I know about 31 other teams who will. And
Mm.
I have the film to suggest to the same. And so, yes, being on a Super Bowl contending team, to take those few, less dollars, I get that. We all want that trophy. Everyone wants that ring. But I can go buy me a ring from Walmart. I can go order me a ring from Case Jewelers. They sell those replica Super Bowl trophies on
Super
NFL.
Bowl rings.
And listen, I get it. I get it. You want it. You want it. But let's play for that. I can't play for my bank account.
Well, it's going to be interesting on that because, depending on the player situation. I know J.J. Watt's made a ton of money, so he might be one of the players that's willing to take a little bit less. I don't think he's going to take the family discount just to go play for Pittsburgh Steelers, but he might take maybe $1 million or $2 million, maybe less, to play with Kansas City or the Buccaneers, who he thinks that can. He's one of the pieces that'll help them either get back into the big dance. Um, some other these guys, I think, like you say, I agree with you on Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett got a ring now, so he can. Hey, you know what? I've been kind of short on my checks. Let me go see what this market will bear, and maybe the market will. I'll get lucky and get both things. I'll go get on, like, maybe Buffalo will sign me or Kansas City will sign me to go on the other side, and they got money the way they structured their deal. So I think you could. I think you can find a little bit of both of that in there, where you can catch that, you can find that contender and get your money. It's just, especially with now with the salary cap going up. So there should be, for a few guys, to be able to cash in on being on a championship quality team. Because, depending on where you're at, you could, I mean, me, myself, there's a couple of places I think that could actually can afford to, pay the little extra dollars and bring in a couple of big time players. I'm not sure I would bring in a J.J. Watt, but I think Green Bay is one of those situations that you could do that. I think San Francisco is one of those situations because they have a pretty good roster. They were injury riddled last year. You know, just imagine if they get the quarterback situation the way they want it, and they had a pretty good offensive team last year, and they bring in another guy that could get them back on top the way they were on defense. They will be one of the teams I would think could be like that. I would just say it's a couple of teams. Pittsburgh has a couple of players, especially if they can retain some of their own players. They might be a player or two away from being able to get over the hump, especially starting the way they did. And one of the other intriguing is Baltimore, because, and actually I would, more than Baltimore, I would actually say Seattle, because they have they're explosive on offense, but I think they kind of fell down a little bit on defense. They weren't as dominant, which that's kind of how they got to their past Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting, to see where it goes. I know free agency opens up in the middle of next month, but there's always a few guys already on the street, and we'll see how the dominoes fall on that, man. Well, let's go into something that's kind of, as a Jaguar fan, we've been seeing the good, bad, ugly of this. Players forcing their ways out off of teams. Um, right now, the king of that was we'll just give it. We'll just say AB was the king of forcing his way out when he did that with Pittsburgh. And then you have what's my young man over here they used to be with us with the Jaguars, Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey basically forced his way to forced a trade to the Rams, and the Rams gave up a boatload to get him. Did it got from both sides? I think the Rams with their return, but he was actually brought in to help get to the Super Bowl. I think they thought bringing Jalen Ramsey would be that final defensive piece. So you can even say the jury is out on them because they did get deep in the playoffs, but they didn't get to the Super Bowl. So here comes next player up, Mr. Deshaun Watson. You know, he's very unhappy right now of the situation. I haven't seen him do a lot of chitter chatter on there, but it was, you know, he was caught. You know, he wasn't caught. He was taking. There were some pictures put out with him with a few Miami Dolphin players in Miami, and it was like, hey, this is a recruiting trip for him. So, and you know, it's a great fit if he was there because he's got some talent there. He's got a pretty good defense, got good coaching, and we'll see what he can do. He probably would need a couple of more pieces to actually get over the hump to get to the Super Bowl in that AFC. But could he actually force the Texans, who come out and said they are not trading him? There is no price that they're really want to take for him. And I don't believe that, because if somebody offers you enough, they get to your number, you'll make that trade. And there's no team in the league, I don't think, if you offered them your entire next 3 drafts, that would say no for one player. So, I mean, would it take something like that? Maybe, but there's a price for everybody out there.
Here's where I disagree a little bit. Mm-hmm. This is one of the few times in contract discussion where both sides kind of have it 50-50. And what I mean by that is, right, the way the contract is worded right now. First of all, Watson, before the beginning of last season, signed a contract extension through 2027. That's the first thing right there. I want everyone to remember that. Number 2, Deshaun Watson's contract includes a no trade clause. Now what that entails is that the Texans can't trade Watson without Watson's say-so.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they would have to sit down as a collective group and say, I would like to go X, Y, Z. And if I don't get X, I want Y. If I don't get Y, I want Z. And if I don't get Z, you guys don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And on top of all of that, the ball's kind of tipped over into the Texans' court because, well, actually, Deshaun's court, because the way that his contract is set up, should he miss any mandatory events, such as mandatory work trainings, mandatory lifts, and of course mandatory training camp, he can be fined up to $50,000 a day. And because of how his contract is structured, he had a huge signing bonus at the beginning of this restructuring. And should he miss some of those days, it could become arguable that he may be forced to pay that money back to the Houston Texans. Now, with all of that being said, I do believe where the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson sit is at an amicable pace. You know, they don't hate each other. They just don't like the way each other is doing business right now. And with that being said, we sit at a crossroads of, for Deshaun, do I want to play for the Texans anymore? How bad do I want to be on another team? For the Texans, do I really want to trade away the guy who helped us get where we are now? And what can I get for him? And to answer your question, you know, who has more leverage or whatnot, I don't know. And this is one of those situations where it could end up really, really good for both sides, and both can walk away just like their boyfriend and girlfriend and be cool and be friends afterwards. If I see you in class, I'll speak. Or this could be really, really bad where the boyfriend and girlfriend start talking about each other on social media and it's like Love and Hip Hop. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Deshaun is, you know, he's known for being a well-loved guy in the locker room and in the boardroom. But his agent is a dog. Don't his agent at all. Mind you, he's the same agent who got Jalen Ramsey away from the Jaguars. He's the same agent who also just literally gets his clients the best contract. And so, and I don't say that in derogatory stance for him, but if you're an NFL club, you hate to see this man walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting these next few months for Watson and his camp, because right now, as it stands, the Texans can just say, "Hey, we're not trading you," and Deshaun Watson will either play or sit. And him sitting will attack his pockets a lot. And I don't think he's trying to pay the Texans any more than he's already paid with his body the last few years.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's not going to sit and let that money go away. But what I do believe is that they're going to. This is going to come to a point where somebody's going to. It's almost like they're working together with this by being adversarial to bring out a better price for. And seems like contrary to what it would be, but it seems like they will make a more advantageous. I mean, not advantageous. It will make it more enticing for somebody to come out of there with a blockbuster type deal to get Deshaun Watson, knowing that he's got a big contract, but it's pretty structured pretty well. Knowing that he's young, only 25 years old. He's a very, very young player, very dynamic. The one thing about it is he's not going to bash your community or your club. So, and if you feel like you're a quarterback or two away, you're really thinking about it. For Deshaun, I know with his agent, I believe in my mind that his mind is made up. He would like to get out of there. That's his preference, because when you look around and your cornerstone players have been traded away, or they're gone, or they're going toward the end of their career, you got to run for your life damn near every week when you're playing out there, which gives you injury issues, which also hurts your value. He would probably love to go to somewhere that's not necessarily a Super Bowl contender right now, but with him could be. Some places where you got some pretty good offensive guys already that could, all he has to do is come in and plug and play with these guys, and they could be really dynamic. I mean, and I see some teams that are probably sitting around their boardroom saying, "Whoa, if we did this, that, and the other, would it be possible? Would that put us over the top, and could we afford it?" I'm sure those conversations are having for quite a few teams across the league right now that are right on that cusp of whether they be good or not. I mean, I could just think of right now. I mean, if you put a couple of pieces around, and most people don't think about it, but could you imagine Deshaun Watson with Carolina Panthers right now? He's there's one a couple other. They got a good dynamic young wide receiver. They're two good receivers, a decent running back, not decent, excuse me, one of the better running backs in the league. Their offensive line is pretty good. That would change their fortunes immensely in the NFL. I mean, they probably up there now, put themselves up there with New Orleans and Tampa Bay. I mean, could you imagine Chicago Bears with Deshaun Watson right now with the defense they had, and if you could get another couple of other offensive pieces, that would work wonders. Imagine might even work when we're bringing Allen Robinson back, because he's never had a great quarterback to play with in his career. Could you imagine Allen Robinson catching passes from Deshaun Watson, which would help their running game, which is pretty decent? There's quite a few teams that are probably thinking about what can we do and what do we need to give up to put ourselves in a contention, and could we afford it? And that's why I think, like you said, he has some leverage in this, because there are teams looking like, whoa, we're just Deshaun away. Maybe we can do something with this thing. I mean, it's not. There's not just a few. There's not just a few teams. There's a couple of teams right now that are feeling that way. Denver Broncos right now is another team comes to mind. What would they do with a Deshaun Watson with all those weapons that they have right now, that they've already drafted, the Jerry Jeudy's and the other guys, and I mean the Noah Fant and the guys that they got in there. Could you imagine Deshaun Watson with the Denver Broncos right now? They'd automatically propel themselves as a playoff contender.
I mean, like you said, the Broncos are actually one of the people on the phone trying to call the Texans as we speak. But at the end of the day, the contract that's already been inked over a year ago. So it's going to be a wait and see.
hmm And maybe, like you're right, that's maybe probably one of the reasons why they've been jettisoning some of their free agents. That just say, well, we can see if we can make up some cap space. I think them and a couple other teams been kind of getting rid of free agents to try to see if they can make a run at that. So we will see. We will see. Now we're getting ready to wrap up this show with with something I wanted to talk about because we hadn't talked a lot of basketball at all. And I kind of watched a couple of games here and there, not really watching, but kind of just kept my eye on them. And then I've been noticing a lot of guys that have been missing some time. And then they had a subject today with LeBron about, conserving his body and his minutes and should, he should take some time off, even though you're the superstar of the team since Anthony Davis is out. And there's a couple other teams that have been talking about, preserving the minutes of their players. And I got to thinking, should the NBA have started so soon after just finishing that last season and the way they had to do this thing being quarantined and all that stuff. And, they almost seem like they got just about like a full type of schedule the way some of these guys are doing back games. I thought they were going to spread that out a little bit more, but maybe they can't because I know they have to get done quick enough in order for some of those guys to go to play in the Olympics. So, we're wondering, maybe they should have reduced the season a little bit further to spread out some of these games, or how best did they do a good job of actually planning this, but go from one season to another the way they did? And I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Let me first say I don't think there's any way to circumvent injuries in sports. I mean, other than taking the necessary precautions with your body and taking care of how you train and everything, which I think most, if not all, NBA players do at that level. But here's the thing: I think people are forgetting. Right now, the way the NBA sits, it's kind of like the Baptist church. You got
Oh
your old
Lord, that's a
people.
reference.
You got your old
Okay.
You got your old people who've been there for a while. They don't praise the Lord in them same pews since whatever. And then you got the young guys who don't do devotion. They do praise and worship. And, and and I think people tend to forget that LeBron's been in the league for over 17 years. People, Steph Curry is right, not far behind him. Iguodala, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, all of these names who are right now injured, or they're having their minutes decreased for time management purposes. They've been then in this league for a while. They have been playing basketball on a year-to-year basis since I was a child. So I think people have to understand that, the body is a working muscle in all of its parts. Sometimes it need a break. And then you're either going to allow your body to take that break, or your body is going to tell you when you're taking that break. And yeah, the league started, finished their last season, kind of got rolling a little quick here. Listen, the last thing a body needs is a longer break. Ask my gut. I'm telling you. It doesn't need longer periods of time to rest. The body actually prefers you, and science tells us the body actually prefers you to stay on that same regimen and that high level of intensity. Now, granted, there are certain breaks and whatever that you need to take in between, which is what they're trying to implement with time management. But your body wants to keep going on. To answer your question, there's nothing that can really truly be done to kind of circumvent those injuries. I get it. It wasn't the standard off season that we're used to for the National Basketball Association. But with that being said, remember, people, your NBA stars, the ones that are constantly being in the All-Star game, were constantly in the All-Star game when I was in grade school. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. Some people, that's just what it is. I mean, and
Body break down.
I don't mean old in the same words as like they actually old, but in NBA years they up there, and their bodies are telling you as such.
And speaking of that, are they playing the NBA All-Star game? I haven't been following
Yeah,
it the way I
it's
was
in Atlanta. It's in Atlanta in a
So
few
they
weeks.
actually are going to play the game.
In a few weeks.
Okay, I did hear some belly aching about it. I didn't know if they changed it or not. So that's going to be interesting. And you know that you're going to have your stars out there, and they're going to be doing their thing. I just wonder if they're going to do it like, I'm sure they're going to have some COVID protocols, so it ain't going to be like your normal, games and stuff like that, where tons of people in there. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all comes out, especially all this and get them some sort of rest before they make this these, well, I would say NBA All-Star team, Olympic team, for to get ready to go over there to Japan. So it's going to be interesting. So we'll see how it goes as we go forward. We'll keep an eye on it. Well, I wanted to stop here right before we end this show and talk about our beautiful and lovely sponsors, She-Car and Watch Game Film, Team Sportswear Direct. Want to just mention our guys, the folks with Laces Out, and what they're doing over there and helping out with the DEMP project, and the Women's Tackle Football League getting ready to start their season in May. So everybody's kind of working up toward that. And I just wanted to make sure that if you continue to enjoy this show, this content that me and Mr. Sullivan is putting out, we would love for you to just put that like button on there and subscribe to this channel. Also, we kind of stream it over onto Facebook. So we'll just continue to follow us. Give us your comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us we're open to taking some subject. If you got a subject or a topic you want us to discuss, we'll gladly do that for you. But we're going to continue to do something that we both love. He does it professionally. I does it as just pure out of love to enjoy and give my family and friends some entertainment. And so thank our sponsors, and we'd like to thank our producer, Mr. Granville All Sports High. And we're going to conclude this show and just say, hey, we got another great show next week, and we'll be back right here on the Terry McGriff Show, and y'all be blessed.